Welcome back, GM Sprinkles here with another video, and today we're talking more Cypher System, but more specifically, how to get the full potential out of the system. So, before we get on to it, I just want to point out my script is down here. I've written a beautiful script. I don't really remember it very well, so I'm going to have to read it. So I apologize if I'm not looking at the camera. My script's here. Oops, already looking at the script. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the Cypher System is a great modular system and it will handle anything you throw at it. It just may take some thinking and a change of mindset. Or, as Dean likes to say from the Cypher Unlimited Discord, a paradigm shift. Check them out, I'll put a link in the description. Bit of a backstory, I started from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and moved to the Cypher System when I got my Cypher System book at the start of 2020 and I began reading through it. I began looking through the Cypher book to try and find abilities I wanted my NPCs, villains, and monsters to have, and I was trying to find the Dungeons & Dragons equivalent of that ability. Till one day, my mind, it just clicked, and the chains that held me to the ground fell off me, and I could fly to new heights as a GM, because the sky was the limit, as I was free, finally. It just made sense that I didn't have to find a D&D ability equivalent, or I didn't have to use an ability from the book. I could just make it up. And now it just seems so silly that I was trying to find the right ability in the book, or trying to find a D&D equivalent of a mechanic or something to bring it into this system. It was ridiculous. And as a quote, yeah, I've got a script on my phone too. The Cypher System Revised Rulebook on page 413. The Cypher System rules as written are with the assumption that the GM does not need to fall back on the rules for everything, either for your own sake or the defense of the own players. So basically what I think that's trying to say is that the rules are there as a guide, they're not meant to constrict the story. You don't have to fit a narrative around the system. Cypher System lets you fit the system around the narrative and helps flow with the narrative. So let's look at some examples to really hammer this point home. If you want a wizard to shoot a lightning bolt from its finger in the shape of an L, like the knight chess piece does, you can just do that. You don't need to find a spell, you don't need to find an ability, you don't need to look at some mechanics of how to do that. It's just simple. You just need to work out the difficulty of the wizard. So you want to make him a level 7 wizard? Awesome. That means that for the players to be able to dodge that lightning bolt, which lightning's pretty hard to dodge, you'd need to roll 21. Which means that it's impossible unless the players put in effort, use an asset, or have a skill in dodging to dodge that lightning bolt. And I think that makes perfect sense because, lightning's pretty hard to dodge. And we'll look at another example. If you want to have a succubus that attacks players' minds and attacks their self-worth, easy. What level do you succubus be? Maybe it's level 6. That means that the players need to roll an 18 to defend against that, and you'll just make the attack hit their intellect pool rather than their might pool. And it's that easy. And because of the Cypher System, I know we're not talking about encounters, but I'm going to do it anyway, is that if you want a creature of level 6 to attack someone, it's probably going to do around 6 damage. It's like a simple formula. Or maybe you're a big nerd like myself and you've been reading way too many Justice League comics and you want to make a dark side kind of character where the laser beams track people from their eyes and go zip, 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 and chase the players. And you can do that. Like, how I would do it is probably make it a level 10 difficulty, so it's really hard to do unless they have assets. They have to stack assets and effort and stuff to make it possible. But that would make sense because the players are meant to be able to eat human things, so it's almost impossible. Well, it's impossible for a normal person to dodge that attack. And it's that easy just to make them up on the fly like that. And this is the thing, you just need to change that mindset and you can have a real good think about things and you can just do it in the Cypher System. At the end of the day, the Cypher System is designed to allow the GM to tell whatever story they want, and it empowers you to bring more than cinematic flair to the game table and not constrict your narrative with rules, but to empower the narrative. This mindset and this change of thinking is so freeing. And when you experience that and you look at the Cypher System again, it really does shine bright, so bright, like a diamond. I'll be honest, skills took me a little time to get my head around when I first read the Cypher System book. Especially how vague and yet specific they are, it can be kind of confusing, especially coming from Dungeons & Dragons where everything is so... Well, 5th edition maybe not so much, but other systems you do see that every skill has a purpose and explains what purpose are and what skills there are for each game. And Cypher System doesn't really have a set of skills. Yeah, there is a suggestion in the Cypher book, and I think Numenera has a set of skills. Ooh, weird sentence. But there isn't one in the Cypher System. And there's a reason why that is, but I'll get to that later. So when I play, I think the skills are a bit lame and vague, and I had to convince him otherwise. So what I had to do is had to get some help on this one, and I went to the great people on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. I would seriously check them out. I know I've already said it once, but seriously, they are a great resource if you need to learn anything from Cypher System. I wish that I was a part of that group when I was learning it for the first time. Would have been a huge help. But I did speak to a very helpful person in the Discord there. His username is Synth, and the way he describes skills, which I will quote, "You do not need a skill to do anything. You could play the game without skills. Having skills makes tasks 1 step or 2 steps easier or harder if it's an inability. Other than that, skills do nothing." Very blunt, but it actually really describes it quite perfectly. And I know what you're thinking. Well, I don't know what you're thinking, but honestly, if you told me this before I looked at the Cypher System, I thought, that sounds lame. And my player thought the exact same thing when I told him this description. But here's the thing. You can't set a set skills for the Cypher System because it's meant for any genre, any story, and a set of skills doesn't really work. And I know that might seem like not a pro or a con, it just seems like something that made it easier for them to make the thing. But wait, I'm getting there. It's amazing. It's amazing because the skills are the approach of the character. They are like your personality traits. A skill is what makes your character personable. And it is something that, yeah, there's so much more cool abilities that you could take instead of a skill if you didn't want to do that advancement. But here's the thing, if you want to be like persuasive and you are just a warrior and you want to be a persuasive warrior, you might have picked like the tough descriptor, but you want to be persuasive as well, you can do that. And that's what it is. It's about adding that flavor to your character, making it come alive. So let's look at some examples. We'll look at a ninja who is one with the shadows. You're probably going to want to be trained or even specialized in stealth. Want to be a cyborg superhuman who hacks into machines? Probably want a skill in hacking. Or specialized if you get that point in the Cypher System. And yeah, you could take a hacking ability, or yeah, you could take a stealth ability, and if you don't have the skill to stealth, sure, you get all the perks of when you do stealth, but it doesn't actually help that role. And if you're coming up against those real high, like 7 up to level 10 NPCs, you want to sneak past, you want to hack into that machine, it's going to be real hard without a skill, in like a training in that skill or a specialization. And that's what it's about. It's about making those roles easier, and it's making your character feel competent. If you want to look back at that stealthy ninja example, that means that if they're specialized in stealth, it means that role is easier by 6. I don't really like looking at it. I prefer the step system that the Cypher suggests. But if you just, anyone who's not really familiar with Cypher, that's the equivalent. It would be -6 to your role. Well, be 6 more to their roll, sorry. It'd be -6 to what they have to roll, so it's +6. And that doesn't seem like a whole heap, but then you can put, if you get any stealthy equipment, you can add an asset there, you put some effort in, and that just makes it a lot easier for you to stealth. And this is where the randomness comes in of the system. Yeah, it's more likely for that player to succeed. They're not always going to succeed though. So you could get out stealthed by someone who's never trained in stealth, and that's kind of life. Like, you know, you can be doing something for ages, and someone who's never tried it happens to beat you at this sport. And maybe it's dumb luck, maybe they're a natural, maybe they've done things similar. And that's just kind of how it is. And I think that's a lot of fun to have that in Cypher System. Anyway, I got a little bit carried away. Let's bring it back to the mindset change. Because the skills are vague. And this is a really good reason why they're vague. Not just the whole genre flexibility thing. Because honestly, I'm a big fantasy nerd. So most of my games are fantasy anyway. So I'm not too fussed with the genre flexibility, I'll be honest. It is a cool addition, don't get me wrong. But my bread and butter is fantasy, so it's not one of the selling points of the Cypher System for me. So the vaguety of the skills is really handy because you might be trying to pick a lock. So you're trying to pick a lock, you're not skilled or specialized in lock picking, but you might be specialized in investigation. I think it's very reasonable for the player to justify that because they're a really good investigator, they're specialized in investigation, that they should at least get an asset, if not skilled in trained in lockpicking, because they can investigate the lock enough to make it a bit easier for them than someone who's never lockpicked in there before. And I think that's generally fine. And I think if you're a good player and you want to justify why you should get an asset or why this training helps you with this skill, I'm going to allow it because skills have crossover. And I don't think the cut and dry that Cypher System Pathfinder do where, oh, this is fast talk, this is persuasion, this is stealth, this is sleight of hand. I think there's a lot of crossover, and I think you have one you can probably debate that you can have a bit into this pull or that pull, and I think that's totally fine. And I think that's why it is so vague, is so you can tell a story and be like, I am the best investigator, and I am specialized in investigating, and I've seen a few locks in my time, so I know how to pick a lock. As long as it's not too difficult, I know how to pick most locks. So they look at the lock, standard lock, they're going to be able to unlock it. If it's a magical lock, or a really strong, powerful lock, like a really good lock, like a vault. Yeah, there we go. Good example, Ben. Yeah, but if it's like something more like a vault that they're trying to break into, maybe the investigator, never seen a lock like this before, probably not going to get an asset or any training to help open that. But the rogue, he's been picking locks his whole life and always tries to break into vaults, probably still going to be able to get into that one. So that's how I think the crossover really works there, and I think that's why they are so vague, so you can have that crossover. Because at the end of the day, it's about telling a story. It's a joint storytelling game. This paradigm shift of Dean calls it, or this mindset change, as I'm calling it right now, is not just applicable to Cypher System. I think it's applicable to all tabletop RPGs. I think if you have the mindset, I think, like I said, the Cypher System really shines when you do break out of that rigidity and that just trying to think outside the box. I think Cypher System shines there, but I think it can be applicable in all tabletop role-playing games. And combat is a perfect example of this. I know a lot of people say that Cypher System is boring combat and it's not deadly, which I'm going to prove you wrong by the first point. I'm going to come back to the deadly part another day. And honestly, I've played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons where the combat is so stale and boring because I'm seeing the same enemies with the exact same abilities after room after room in a dungeon. And the players are using the same 3 abilities, their wizards using the same 3 abilities just to get through the dungeon because that is what works best for them to maximize damage. And the fighter, they've got the great weapon fighting skills, so they really hit hard on their attacks. And yeah, if you do those same 3 moves, that's boring too, and that's Dungeons and Dragons, which is someone really loves their tactical combat. And honestly, there's plenty of videos on YouTube saying that Pathfinder is not much different. But if you want to spice up your combat with a spicy boy, I would suggest putting in complications. Give your monsters unique abilities, and if it's Cypher System, GM intrude to rise tension. I will say one thing about other systems in combat versus Cypher System is there is a bit of a safety net, which just makes the combat a little bit easier to run and keep interesting, where I think to make a very interesting encounter in Cypher System is just a little bit more effort, not a lot more, and I think once you break out of that mindset anyway, it just comes quite naturally when you just do fun things and add a lot of flair to your games anyway. Well, that's just my opinion anyway. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the Cypher Unlimited Discord. They're all a great group of people. If you do want to follow me elsewhere, I post character sheets, I post funny tweets, I think they're funny. I also let you know what I'm doing in my spare time. I share cool art that I like. You can follow me anywhere here, on Facebook, here, on Instagram, or here on Twitter. If you did enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and share to your friends. If you don't have any friends, go out, find some people, teach them about Cypher System, and then run a game with them, or for them. That's how I make friends. Till next time, keep rolling those dice. Don't let them define you.